The rain poured mercilessly over the slums, drenching the boy who knelt in the mud. His name was Kale, the nameless orphan everyone spat upon, the boy mocked for daring to dream of strength. That night, beneath the jeers of the nobles and the blows of the guards, Kale's dignity was shattered. His bruised lips whispered one promise: never again. But fate played crueler games. Abandoned, humiliated, and left to die in an alley, Kale's final sight was the mocking laughter of those who crushed him. And yet, in the moment his life should have ended, an ancient voice cut through the void. Do you seek vengeance? Do you desire power beyond mortality itself? Chains shattered in the abyss of his soul, revealing a forbidden path. The power of reincarnation, long sealed by gods and feared by emperors. With it came more than strength. It came the chance to rewrite destiny itself. From a discarded orphan to a wielder of eternity's curse, Kale's story begins here. But every gift has its price, and every resurrection breeds a darker enemy. The question remains, how far will Kale go when even death cannot hold him? The slums stank of rot and smoke, mud clung to every stone, and the cries of hungry children echoed like broken instruments. For Kale, this wasn't just the world, it was his prison. Day after day, he scavenged for stale bread, fought over moldy fruit, and endured the jeers of the nobles who passed by in silken robes. His name was a joke, a reminder that he was nothing. The cursed child. That was what they called him. No family had ever claimed him. No crest, no bloodline, no future. Just scraps, bruises, and shame. And yet hope lingered like a cruel trick. Because once every year, even orphans had a chance to rise. The selection trials. The arena smelled of sweat and steel. Hundreds of villagers gathered to watch the spectacle. For the nobles, it was entertainment. For the commoners, it was a miracle. For Kale, it was his last chance. He tightened his grip on the wooden sword given to him, knuckles white. His heart pounded so hard it drowned out the crowd. One by one, the orphans displayed their gifts. Sparks of fire, bursts of ice. Even a trembling girl managed to conjure a tiny healing glow. The audience clapped politely. Then it was Kale's turn. Silence fell. All eyes pinned him down like knives. He swung the sword with all his strength. Snap! The blade splintered in his hands. Laughter erupted, a wave of cruel delight crashing down on him. Kale tried again, this time forcing his mana into his palms. He shouted, veins bulging, nothing, not even a flicker. The instructor sneered, lips curling into disgust. Pathetic. Even rats have more worth. The crowd roared with laughter. Coins clattered against the ground as nobles mocked him, tossing them like scraps to a begging dog. And then he stepped forward. Darius, son of a high lord, golden hair, silk tunic, arrogance dripping from every gesture. He twirled his polished sword and grinned. Crawl for them, Kale. Show them what a cursed dog really is. Kale froze. His pride screamed no. His body refused. But when Darius shoved him to his knees, the crowd chanted, egging him on. Someone hurled a copper coin into the mud. It landed before Kale's face, splashing filth into his eyes. Pick it up, Darius ordered. Kale's fists clenched. He wanted to fight, to scream, to burn the entire arena to ash. Instead, he crawled, hands sinking into mud, knees scraping against stone. Each movement tore his dignity apart, piece by piece, until he picked up the coin with trembling fingers. The crowd exploded into laughter. Darius smirked like a king, and Kale's soul shattered. That night the slums greeted him with silence. His body bore bruises from the guards who beat him after the trial for insolence. His pride lay in ruins. He dragged himself through an alley slick with rain, his breath shallow, his vision blurred. He collapsed against the wall, mud soaking into his torn clothes. The copper coin still clung to his palm. He stared at it for a long moment before whispering through split lips, "If this world has no place for me." His fingers curled into a fist, blood dripping onto the coin. And then I'll carve one myself, even if it kills me. But death was already near. As Kale's eyelids grew heavy, a darkness deeper than night wrapped around him. His chest tightened, his heart stuttered, and then he heard it, a voice. It didn't belong to the slums. It didn't belong to the world. It was older, colder, like the echo of something that had watched centuries crumble. Do you seek rebirth? Kale's eyes snapped open, but he wasn't in the alley anymore. He was floating in a void. Black light swirled around him like storm clouds. The ground beneath his feet didn't exist. Stars flickered, distant and dying. His breath caught. His pulse hammered. "What is this?" The voice came again. Stronger. Closer. "Do you wish to rise, Kyle? Do you wish to escape humiliation?" The shadows coiled, whispering promises of strength, of vengeance, of immortality. Kale's throat trembled.
"Yep, anything."
Anything to never bow again. The void pulsed in answer, chains of crimson light snaking toward him, then stepped forward. "Cursed child, your path begins here," Kale gasped, falling to his knees as the light pierced his chest. His body convulsed, pain tearing through him like fire. He screamed, and then the world snapped apart. The chapter ends with Kale's eyes flying open in the swirling black abyss, his reflection staring back at him in the void's glassy surface, eyes glowing faintly crimson for the first time. Cliffhanger. The voice whispers one final time, dripping with both promise and threat. You will never die again. Darkness. Not the comforting kind that follows sleep, but a suffocating abyss, endless and absolute. Kale floated in it, his limbs heavy, his breath caught between life and death. The void pulsed with a rhythm like the slow heartbeat of a dead god. He looked around. Nothing but blackness stretching forever. And yet, he wasn't alone. A voice curled around him like smoke. Low. Ancient. Neither male nor female. Yet both. "You have tasted humiliation," Kale jerked at the sound. His throat was raw. "Who's there?" The void answered with silence. Then the voice returned, closer this time. "You have known despair, betrayal, powerlessness. Do you wish to taste eternity instead?" Kale's fists tightened. He thought of the selection trials, of laughter raining down on him like stones, of Darius's smirk as he forced him to crawl. Rage boiled up, hot and bitter. "Yes," he spat into the void. His voice cracked but carried weight. "Yes, I'll take anything. Anything to crush them." Chains erupted from the darkness, not iron, but crimson light forged of memory and sin. They coiled around his arms, his chest, his throat burning like molten steel. Kale screamed as they sank into his skin, branding him with symbols older than language. From the center of the void, a figure emerged, skeletal, cloaked in shadow, eyes like dying stars. It carried no weapon, but its presence pressed against Kyle like the weight of mountains. "Then hear this bargain," the figure intoned. Its voice was every whisper he had ever ignored, every prayer left unanswered. "You shall wield the power of reincarnation. You will not stay dead. Each fall will birth you anew, stronger than before, but your curse will be eternal. The gods will hunt you, the world will fear you, and never will you know rest." Kale trembled. His body begged to reject it. His pride demanded otherwise. What good is rest to the worthless? What good is peace to the humiliated? If death has mocked me once, then let me mock it forever. The figure tilted its skull, a grin spreading across its hollow jaw. So be it. The chains snapped. Agony exploded. Power surged into Kale's veins, searing every nerve. His bones cracked, his heart stopped, restarted, stopped again. Each breath was a blade carving his lungs. His scream was swallowed by the void. And yet, beneath the pain came something else. Heat, strength, clarity. He could hear the beat of wings from creatures that weren't there. He could smell the blood of battles he hadn't fought. His skin crawled with the sensation of infinite lives clawing to be remembered. The mark on his chest ignited, an intricate sigil of spirals and thorns, glowing crimson. It pulsed in rhythm with the void. Alive. Then, silence. The figure's voice echoed one final time. "Rise, reincarnator! Your path is written in blood." Kyle gasped. He was lying in the alley again, the rain still falling, the mud still clinging to his skin. But his wounds, they were gone. His ribs no longer ached, his lips no longer bled. His body pulsed with raw energy, foreign yet familiar. He staggered to his feet. The world looked sharper, the edges crueler. He could see the flicker of torchlight 2 streets away, hear rats scuttling behind a barrel, feel the heartbeat of a beggar sleeping in a shack nearby. His chest throbbed. He tore open his ragged shirt and froze. There it was. The mark. A glowing sigil etched into his flesh, faint but undeniable. Crimson lines forming a pattern that seemed to move when he blinked. panic clawed at him. He tried rubbing it off, scraping at it, but the mark pulsed deeper, fusing with his very being. This isn't real, he whispered. It can't be real. But the memory of chains biting into his skin, of the skeletal figure's voice, told him otherwise. Footsteps. Cale snapped his head up. Shadows flickered at the alley's mouth. A group of drunks stumbled past, laughing, tossing coins. One dropped into the mud with a splash. Cale's breath quickened. His mind replayed Darius's sneer, the crowd's jeers, his own knees scraping stone as he crawled for a coin. Never again. He crushed the coin beneath his heel. For the first time in his life, Cale smiled, not in joy. In defiance, I will rise, he whispered to the night. His voice carried weight it had never known before. No matter how many times I fall, I will rise. But far away, in a marble temple glowing with divine fire, an acolyte shuddered. The sacred texts burned open on their own, pages flaring with crimson light. The words appeared, seared into parchment. The reincarnator has awakened. The high priest dropped to his knees, sweat beading his brow. No, not again. Not after so many centuries. Trumpets blared faintly in the heavens. Back in the slums, Cale stared at his reflection in a puddle. For a moment, it was his face, muddy, ragged, determined. Then it shifted. Crimson eyes stared back, not his own. Older, hungrier. A smile curled across lips that weren't his. Cale stumbled back, heart racing. What was that? The puddle rippled, and the voice whispered again, softer this time. Closer. This is only the beginning. Cliffhanger. Cale clutches his chest as the mark pulses violently, casting red light across the alley. His reflection in the puddle tilts its head and whispers something Cale cannot hear. Yet, first blood. The slums never slept. Somewhere, someone was always crying, fighting, or dying. But tonight, the night felt different. Cale walked the alleys like a stranger in his own home. His body still hummed with that cursed energy, every step lighter, sharper. The mark on his chest throbbed like a second heartbeat. He flexed his hands. The world sharpened around him. He could see the cracks in the walls, hear a rat gnawing on wood 2 streets away, smell cheap ale spilling from a tavern a dozen doors down. It was overwhelming. He leaned against a wall, gasping. What am I becoming? The answer came sooner than he expected. Oi, look who's staggering around like a drunk dog. Cale froze. 3 figures stepped out of the shadows. Thugs. Men who had tormented him for years, taking his food, his coins, his pride. They carried rusty knives and jagged smiles. Well, if it isn't the cursed child, the tallest sneered. His teeth were yellow, his eyes mean. Didn't you crawl for the nobles today? Heard the whole damn square laughing at you. The others snickered. One spat at Cale's feet. Normally, Cale would have dropped his eyes, muttered an apology, and taken the beating. That was how it always went. But not tonight. Something inside him snapped. The tall thug shoved him against the wall, blade pressing against his throat. Hand over whatever scraps you got left, dog. Cale's chest burned. His vision tinted red. The mark pulsed. No, he said. His voice was quiet, steady, deadly. The thug blinked. Then he laughed. No? You got a death wish, boy. Cale's eyes narrowed. I've already died. The fight erupted. The knife slashed downward, but Cale's body moved on its own. Faster than thought, faster than fear. His hand shot up, catching the thug's wrist. A sharp twist. Crack! The man screamed, his arm bending at an unnatural angle. The knife clattered to the ground. The second thug charged, swinging a club. Cale ducked low, his instincts guiding him. He rose with an elbow that smashed into the man's jaw. Teeth flew. The thug collapsed in a heap, blood pooling in the dirt. Cale stared at his hands, trembling, stronger, deadlier. What did I just do? The last thug backed away, eyes wide. Monster, he whispered. Then he ran. Cale stood in the silence that followed. His heart pounded, but not from fear, from exhilaration. He had never beaten anyone before, never once stood tall, and now, with barely a thought, he had broken them. But his triumph was short-lived. Found you! The voice came from above. Cale looked up and froze. Mercenaries, 6 of them, dropping from the rooftops like wolves, hired blades stronger than street thugs. Their armor was mismatched, their weapons sharp and polished. Lord Darius sends his regards. one of them sneered. Said to teach you a lesson for daring to embarrass him. Kale's breath hitched. His body screamed to run, but they were already surrounding him. Blades flashed. The first strike cut deep into his side. Hot blood spilled. Kale staggered, clutching the wound. Another slash tore across his arm. A third pierced his thigh. He fought back, wild and desperate, but numbers overwhelmed him. Steel bit flesh again and again. His knees buckled. The mercenaries laughed as he collapsed into the mud. So much for the cursed boy. Can't even crawl this time. Kale's vision blurred. His breath rattled. He felt his life slipping away, the cold fingers of death pulling him under. And then, time shattered. He gasped. The wounds closed. His body repaired itself in seconds. He staggered back to his feet, stronger than before. His killers froze, staring in disbelief. What the— We killed him! Kale's chest heaved. His crimson mark burned brighter than ever, casting light across the alley. His voice trembled with fury. You thought you killed me! His eyes glowed. His fists clenched. Now it's my turn. The alley became a slaughterhouse. Kale moved like lightning, every strike heavier, sharper. He ducked under blades, shattered bones with his bare hands, drove fists into throats. Each time they cut him down, he rose again. Faster, stronger, deadlier. One mercenary screamed as Kale twisted his head backward with a sickening crack. Another gurgled as Kale drove his own knife into his chest. Blood sprayed across the walls. The last one tried to flee, but Kale tackled him into the mud. His hands wrapped around the man's throat. No more crawling, Kale hissed. His grip tightened until the mercenary went limp. Silence fell. Kale stood among corpses, his chest rising and falling, blood dripping from his hands. His body felt alive, burning with newfound strength, but his mind trembled. He had killed, not one. Not too many, and yet there was no guilt, no remorse, only satisfaction. His reflection stared back at him in a pool of blood. His own face, smeared with crimson, grinning. Kale's smile faded into horror. What am I becoming? In the distance, a bell tolled. The sound carried across the slums, announcing another soul lost. But Kyle knew better. This was only the beginning. Cliffhanger. Kyle wipes the blood from his hands, staring at the glowing mark on his chest as a single thought echoes in his head. How many times must I die to truly ascend? Whispers of the divine. The corpses still bled into the mud. Kale stood in the center of it all, chest heaving, body trembling, but not from weakness. No, from power. A power he didn't understand. A power that terrified him. The mark on his chest pulsed like a living heart, glowing faintly crimson in the dark. Each beat whispered to him, soft and sinister, Rise, kill, rise again. Kale clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms. No, I can't. I'm not a monster, but the blood soaking his hands argued otherwise. Then the air shifted, the night grew heavy. The laughter of drunkards, the scuttling of rats, even the distant howls of stray dogs, all went silent. The slums held its breath. Kale looked up. A figure hovered above the alley, cloaked in golden light. Their face was obscured, but wings unfurled behind them, vast and radiant, blotting out the stars. A voice rang out, clear and commanding, vibrating in Kale's skull. So, the forbidden power has chosen another vessel. Kale staggered back. What are you? The figure's voice boomed, not cruel, not kind, simply absolute. I am a sentinel of the divine. My duty is to purge what should not exist, and you are a sin reborn. The angelic being descended, light scorching the corpses at Kale's feet. Flesh melted, blood evaporated, leaving only ash. Kale's eyes widened. His victims vanished as though they'd never existed. The sentinel raised a hand. A spear of pure light formed, humming with deadly energy. You have tasted power not meant for mortals. It will consume you. Better you die now before it spreads. Panic clawed at Kyle's chest. He wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't move. His mark burned hot as if resisting the divine presence. No, Kale shouted, his voice cracking. I won't die here. Not again! The spear flew. Kale's instincts screamed. He rolled aside, the weapon searing past him, carving a molten scar into the stone wall. Heat blistered his skin. The sentinel moved with terrifying grace, wings beating once, closing the distance instantly. Another spear formed. Kyle barely dodged, the ground exploding where he had stood. He scrambled to his feet, blood rushing in his ears. I can't fight that. I'll die! The mark pulsed, then die. Kale's body jerked. The whisper inside him was calm, inevitable. Fall, rise, fall again. Each death makes you stronger. Kale's eyes widened. His heart pounded. Could it be true? The sentinel swooped again, spear raised high. This time, Kale didn't run. The weapon pierced straight through his chest. Pain detonated, white-hot and blinding. His breath caught, blood bubbling at his lips. The sentinel's voice was final. Rest, sinner. Kale collapsed. Darkness swallowed him. But death did not hold him. The mark ignited. Power surged like wildfire. His heart restarted with a violent jolt. His wound sealed shut. His eyes snapped open, glowing crimson. The sentinel froze mid-strike. Impossible. Kale rose from the blood-soaked dirt, his voice ragged but defiant. You can kill me 1,000 times, he clenched his fists. His body thrummed with renewed strength. But I'll never stay down. They clashed. The alley erupted in chaos. The sentinel's spears of light rained like meteors, each strike shattering stone, each explosion shaking the slums. Kale darted through the carnage, faster, stronger than before, fists glowing faintly with crimson fire. He struck the angel's chest once, twice, each blow heavier than the last. But the being's light only flared brighter, wings shielding it like armor. The sentinel swung its spear. Kale caught it with both hands. His skin burned, flesh sizzling, but he held firm. With a roar, he wrenched the weapon aside and drove his head into the figure's face. The angel staggered, just for a moment. That moment was enough. Kale unleashed a flurry of strikes, each fueled by rage, each more brutal than the last. He could feel his strength growing mid-battle, his body adapting, evolving. The sentinel reeled. This is abomination. But Kale's victory was short-lived. The angel's light exploded outward, a shockwave that hurled him through a wall. His body cracked stone, dust filling his lungs. He staggered up, battered, bleeding, but alive. The sentinel raised its spear again, fury radiating from its form.
You cannot be allowed to exist.
Kale's body screamed to collapse. But the mark pulsed stronger, whispering again. More. Take more. Your life is fuel. Kale dropped to his knees, chest heaving. What are you doing to me? The voice in his mind chuckled, dark and patient. You are no longer Kale the Orphan. You are Kale the Reincarnator. And this world will break before you do. Kale looked up, sweat and blood dripping down his face. The sentinel loomed above him, spear glowing brighter than the sun. Kale clenched his fists, heart pounding, and grinned despite the pain, then let it break. The alley lit up as divine judgment descended. Cliffhanger. The chapter ends mid-flash, with Kale swallowed in blinding light. His scream echoes, yet the mark beats louder than ever, promising that death itself will not end this battle. Judgment-shattered light swallowed everything. The alley, the corpses, even Kale himself, all drowned in radiance so pure it burned his eyes from the inside. His scream was ripped from his throat as divine fire consumed his flesh, muscle peeling, bones cracking under the weight of holy wrath. The sentinel's voice thundered over the blaze. Return to the void, sinner. This is mercy. Kale's body fell apart. He died. Then he rose, the mark seared against his chest, crimson against gold. The divine fire faltered. Kale staggered out of the blaze, skin still steaming, body reforming itself faster than it could be destroyed. His chest heaved. His eyes glowed blood-red. The sentinel froze. Its radiant wings flickered, uncertain. Blasphemy. Kale's laugh was broken, ragged, defiant. You call this mercy? His voice cracked, yet it carried weight. Mercy is crawling for coins. Mercy is starving in the mud while nobles spit on you? He raised a trembling fist. His blood boiled, his bones screamed, but still he stood. This is mine. This cursed power is mine. The sentinel roared, wings unfurling to blot out the night sky. The slums quaked under the force of its fury. Holy spears materialized in a storm, raining down like judgment itself. Kale charged forward. He wove through the barrage, each death sharpening his reflexes. A spear pierced his leg. He fell, died, rose again. Another impaled his stomach. He dropped, screamed, resurrected. Each fall left him stronger, faster, more relentless. The sentinel's strikes grew desperate. Why won't you stay dead? Kale's lips twisted into a grin. Because death is mine to command. With a roar, he closed the gap. His fist, burning crimson, slammed into the angel's chest. Light fractured. Cracks spread across its radiant form. The sentinel gasped, stumbling back. Kale didn't stop. Blow after blow, each fueled by fury, each echoing with every humiliation he'd ever endured. The air shook with the rhythm of his rage. For every laugh, crack! For every slap, crack! For every time you made me crawl, crack! The sentinel's chest caved inward, light spilling out like blood. Its once commanding voice faltered, trembling with something Kale had never expected. Fear. Kale seized the angel's spear, twisting it free. The weapon pulsed with divine energy, burning his hands. He screamed, forcing the mark to feed, to devour, to claim. Crimson fire snaked over the holy weapon, corrupting it. The spear changed, half golden, half crimson, a weapon caught between heaven and hell. The sentinel staggered, wings flickering. This cannot be. The forbidden power devours even the divine. Kale raised the corrupted spear, his breath ragged, his voice low and trembling. Then let the divine fear me too. With one savage thrust he drove the weapon through the sentinel's chest. Light erupted. The angel shrieked, its form unraveling. Wings turned to ash, halo shattered, body crumbling into dust. Kale collapsed to his knees, chest heaving, the mark glowing furiously. His vision blurred, ears ringing with the echo of the sentinel's final words. Your path will end in ruin. Silence followed. The alley was gone, reduced to rubble. The slums had fallen quiet, its filth washed away by divine fire, leaving only charred stone and the scent of blood. Kale looked at his trembling hands. Burned, scarred, but alive. Always alive. I killed a divine. His voice shook with disbelief, with fear, and with exhilaration. But his victory was not hidden. Far above, beyond mortal sight, the heavens stirred. A chorus of voices cried out as one, horrified, wrathful. The death of a sentinel was no small ripple. It was a storm. And elsewhere, in a palace of black marble deep beneath the earth, a different voice laughed. Dark, hungry, pleased. The reincarnator rises again. The chains have broken. The world shall burn anew. Kale dragged himself from the ruins, body trembling with exhaustion. The corrupted spear remained in his grip, its dual glow pulsing in rhythm with his heart. He staggered into the shadows, whispering to himself, No more crawling. No more chains. I'll take everything they denied me, even if I have to steal it from the gods themselves. The mark flared, crimson light cutting through the dark. Then a sound. Boots. Many of them. Kyle froze. Soldiers rounded the corner, their torches casting harsh light on the ruined alley. Their commander raised his hand, eyes widening at the carnage. What in the name of the crown happened here? The soldiers' gazes fell on Kyle, blood-soaked, weapon glowing, crimson mark burning through his ragged shirt. Monster! One shouted, Kill him before he escapes. Another cried. The commander hesitated, fear in his eyes, but duty hardened his jaw. By order of the kingdom, you're under arrest. Kale tightened his grip on the corrupted spear, eyes flashing red. His body screamed with fatigue, but the mark pulsed with hunger. Arrest me? He whispered, a grin crawling across his lips. Then come try. The torches closed in. The soldiers roared. Kale stood ready, crimson fire flaring around him. Cliffhanger. The chapter ends with Kale's silhouette framed against the flames, the corrupted spear raised high as soldiers charge, his laughter cutting through the chaos like a blade. The outlaw awakened steel clashed against stone as soldiers surged into the ruined alley, torches blazing in the night. Their armor rattled, their blades gleamed, and their shouts echoed through the slums. Kale stood in their path, bloodied but unbroken, the corrupted spear glowing half gold, half crimson in his grip. His ragged breath formed clouds in the cold night, and his eyes burned like embers ready to ignite. The commander raised his sword high. Seize him! For the kingdom! Dozens of soldiers charged. Kyle didn't hesitate. He roared, swinging the spear in a wide arc. Crimson fire erupted, colliding with steel. The first wave of soldiers flew backward, armor splitting, weapons shattering, but more came. They swarmed like wolves, stabbing, slashing. A blade pierced his shoulder, another cut deep across his back. Kale fell to one knee, blood spilling into the dirt. His chest heaved, his vision blurred. A soldier sneered. Pathetic! Then Kale's body spasmed. The mark ignited. His wound sealed. His strength surged. His head snapped up, lips curling into a grin. "I already told you," he whispered. "I don't stay dead." He exploded forward. Every strike was brutal, merciless. Spears shattered, skulls cracked, shields splintered under the weight of his attacks. He moved faster with each death, each wound feeding the cursed power burning through his veins. A soldier gasped as Kale snapped his arm like a twig. "What is he?" Another screamed as Kale drove the corrupted spear straight through his chest. The commander's face paled. He had fought monsters, brigands, even beasts from the wilds, but nothing like this boy who refused to die.
"Fall back!
Fall back!
The commander shouted. But retreat was too late. Kyle hurled the corrupted spear like a thunderbolt. It tore through 3 men at once, pinning them to a shattered wall. The weapon pulsed, devouring their life force, crimson fire licking at their corpses. Kale strode forward, pulling the spear free, his voice low and trembling with fury. "You call me cursed. Monster! Worthless! Then fear the monster you created." The soldiers stumbled back, eyes wide, some dropping their weapons in terror. The commander gritted his teeth. His pride wouldn't let him flee.
Cowards.
"He's only one boy." He lunged, sword raised. Kale blocked with the spear, sparks showering as steel met corrupted fire. Their clash sent shockwaves through the alley. "You don't know what you're fighting," Kale hissed. The commander snarled. "I know enough." "You're an abomination." Kale's grin widened. "Then let me show you what abominations do." With a vicious twist, he disarmed the commander, then rammed the corrupted spear straight through his armor. The man's eyes widened in disbelief before going dim. The remaining soldiers broke. They fled into the night, leaving their fallen behind. Kyle stood alone among corpses, chest heaving, his spear dripping with blood and light. The flames of the soldiers' torches sputtered out, leaving only the crimson glow of the mark. Silence returned to the slums. Kale exhaled, his voice trembling. Sure, I won, but his victory felt hollow. Around him the streets were littered with broken bodies. Men who had once mocked him, men who had once ignored him. Now all silent. His reflection stared back from a puddle of blood. Not the scared, humiliated boy from days before, but something else, something darker. A whisper drifted through the night. Not from his mind this time, but from the shadows themselves. He killed a sentinel. He killed soldiers. The cursed boy has become the outlaw. Figures stirred in the darkness. Beggars, thieves, orphans. The slums forgotten had witnessed everything. Their wide eyes glowed with a mix of fear and awe. One boy whispered, He's not human." Another muttered, "He's a demon." Kyle turned toward them, his crimson eyes catching the torchlight. The crowd recoiled. For a heartbeat, Kale's chest tightened. Once he had begged to be seen, to be acknowledged. Now their gazes held only terror. "Monster," a woman hissed. The word cut deeper than any blade. Suddenly, a trumpet blared in the distance. Then another. Kale's blood ran cold. The kingdom had been alerted. His fight had not gone unnoticed. Reinforcements would come. Hundreds, not dozens. He staggered back, clutching the corrupted spear. His mind raced. He couldn't stay here. Not anymore. The whispers around him grew louder. "Outlaw? Fugitive? Hunted?" Kale's lips curled into a bitter smile. So be it. He fled into the night, vanishing into the maze of the slums. Behind him, soldiers gathered the dead. Priests examined the ruins, and word spread like wildfire. By dawn, the story of the cursed orphan who killed a divine sentinel would reach every corner of the kingdom, and with it, the birth of a legend. Far above, in the heavens, a council of radiant figures stood around a blazing circle. Their voices overlapped in fury. "The reincarnator lives again. He has slain one of our own. He must be destroyed before the curse spreads." A single, colder voice cut through the noise. "No, let him grow. Let him climb. Only then can we break him utterly." The council fell silent. Back on Earth, Kale found himself on a rooftop, overlooking the slums that had once been his prison. The night air cut sharp against his skin, carrying the scent of smoke and blood. He gripped the corrupted spear, his crimson mark pulsing with hunger. His voice was quiet, but it carried into the empty sky. "You wanted a monster." His lips curled. "You'll get one?" The mark throbbed once, twice, like laughter in his chest. Cliffhanger. Kyle disappears into the night as wanted posters begin to spread through the kingdom. His name, once spoken only in mockery, now becomes a curse whispered in fear. Kyle, the reincarnator, the shadow's hand. The kingdom woke to whispers. By sunrise, Kale's name was painted across the city walls, scrawled on parchment nailed to tavern doors, murmured in the mouths of merchants and beggars alike. The cursed child killed a sentinel, an outlaw stronger than death itself. Kyle, the reincarnator, wanted posters plastered his face in crude ink, ragged hair, haunted eyes, the crimson mark sketched over his chest. The reward for his capture was enough to feed a family for a year, and every man in the slums was starving. Kale knew it. He moved like a shadow, darting across rooftops, wrapping himself in tattered cloaks stolen from drying lines. His spear was hidden beneath filthy cloth, its glow dimmed, but the mark on his chest betrayed him. It pulsed under his skin, burning hotter the closer danger crept. Each alley carried hunters, soldiers in polished armor, mercenaries eager for coin. Even slum rats with daggers thought they could try their luck. Kale's lips curled into a bitter smile. They finally see me, not as a dog, not as dirt, but as prey. He slipped into an abandoned warehouse, chest heaving. The air smelled of mold and rust, but it was shelter. For now, he sank against a wall, clutching the spear close. His body trembled, not from weakness, but from the strain of holding back. Each throb of the mark begged him to fight, to kill, to rise through death again and again. Kale clenched his teeth. No, not yet. Not unless I have to. But the moment he closed his eyes, footsteps echoed. He shot up, spear ready. A figure leaned casually against the shadows of the doorway, slim, wrapped in black leather, a hood concealing most of their face. Their voice was smooth, sly, dangerous. You fight like a demon, but hide like a rat. Kale's grip tightened. Hunter? The figure chuckled. Depends who's paying. They stepped into the dim light, revealing a young woman, perhaps a year older than Kale. Sharp eyes gleamed beneath the hood, scanning him like prey, like puzzle, like opportunity. I've been following you, she said. From the square, from the alley where you bled out soldiers like cattle. Impressive. Terrifying, but impressive, Kale spat. Then you know to stay away? Her smirk widened. Or closer, depending on what you're worth to me. Kale's heart pounded. Allie? Assassin? He couldn't tell. Who are you? He demanded. The girl pulled back her hood. Her dark hair spilled over her shoulders, and a jagged scar ran across her cheek. Old, ugly, a survivor's mark. Call me Lyra, she said. And before you stab me, relax. If I wanted the bounty, you'd already be bleeding. Kale kept his spear raised. Why follow me then? Lyra shrugged, tossing a dagger in the air with practiced ease. Because everyone wants you dead, which means you're valuable, dangerous. And I have a rule. Stick close to the most dangerous thing in the room. Her grin sharpened. Right now, that's you. Kale narrowed his eyes. You think I need allies? Lyra leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper. I think you'll die without one. Even with your trick? Kale stiffened. His grip tightened on the spear. You know. Lyra's eyes flicked to the faint crimson glow beneath his shirt. I saw you fall. I saw you rise. No normal man does that. Not even beasts. Her expression darkened. So tell me, Kale, how many times can you die before the gods themselves come hunting? Kale said nothing. The silence stretched, heavy. Finally Lyra straightened, tossing the dagger again, catching it effortlessly. Doesn't matter. You need someone who knows the underground. I know every sewer, every guild, every rat hole this city hides. Soldiers won't stop hunting you. Mercenaries won't stop coming. But I can help you vanish. Kale's chest tightened. His pride screamed to refuse, to stand alone, to prove he needed no one. But another part, quieter, heavier, remembered the soldier's numbers, the sentinel's wrath, his reflection grinning in the blood. Maybe she was right. Why? Kale asked, voice low. Why risk your life for me? Lyra's smirk faltered just a fraction. For a heartbeat, something raw flashed in her eyes. Because once, I was hunted too. Silence again. Her words hung in the air, bitter and unspoken. Then the smirk returned, sharp as a blade. So kill the reincarnator? What will it be? Do I walk away? Or do we paint this rotten kingdom red together? Kale stared at her. His mark pulsed. His reflection in the spear's corrupted glow smiled wider than he did. Walk away, he whispered. Then his grin spread. And watch your back. Because if you betray me, I'll make sure you never rise again. Lyra's laugh rang out, low and amused. Fair enough. She extended her hand. After a long, tense moment, Cale grasped it. Their grip was firm. Dangerous. Necessary. Outside, horns blared again. Patrols swept the slums, hunting the outlaw who refused to die. Lyra leaned close, whispering against Cale's ear. Time to move. The city won't stay blind forever. Cale nodded, crimson fire flickering in his eyes. Let them come. I'll rise again. And again. Together, they vanished into the shadows. Cliffhanger. The chapter closes with a cut to the kingdom's palace. Nobles murmur in fear, priests chant warnings, and Darius, the noble who humiliated Cale, slams his fist on a marble table, snarling, "Find him! That orphan dies by my hand, no matter how many times it takes." Deathstalker, the city's belly smelled of smoke, spice, and old secrets. Lanterns swung over crooked streets like watchful eyes. Markets still pulsed with life, until dusk fell and the gutters exhaled their true breath, whispers, deals, and the rustle of cloaks where thieves bartered in the lamplight. Cale moved with Lyra at his shoulder. She knew the alleys that never showed up on maps, the tunnels beneath taverns, the back doors of the thieves' guild, the doorways where trust went to die. Tonight they hunted coin, information, anything to keep a fugitive alive. Cale's spear was wrapped tight, the glow barely visible beneath dirty cloth. The mark under his shirt throbbed like a heartbeat in his chest. "You nervous?" Lyra asked, voice low and amused as she nudged him with her elbow. Her fingers slid along a hidden dagger at her waist. Practiced. Dangerous. "You look nervous." Cale pulled his hood lower. He did feel it, itching at the edges of his thoughts, a hungry voice that urged him toward violence. "No," he lied, "just thinking," Lyra snorted. "Thinking's for men who have the luxury of tomorrow." She glanced down the narrow lane. "We'll meet someone here. Old contacts. They owe me. They like gold more than gods." They slipped through a market of crates and sleeping dogs, ducked under a laundry line heavy with damp clothes, and stepped into an inner courtyard where the city's underclass met on neutral ground. Lanterns cast along trembling shadows. Voices softened. Deals traded hands like secrets. A hulking man, scarred and missing teeth, rose from a bench and nodded at Lyra. "You bring the demon blood?" Lyra grinned. "I brought the weapon, the will, and the appetite. You got the info?" The man leaned forward. "There's talk. Priests scrub the holy halls. Nobles close their curtains. Someone's come looking for the boy who won't die. Hunters, paid hands. But there's more. Rumors of a cloaked killer stalking the back streets. No one sees him till it's too late." Cale's pulse tightened. "What does this killer look like?" The scarred man shrugged. "No face worth remembering. Moves like shadow. Leaves no body behind. Only a mark, silver, etched with runes. Folks say it belongs to the temple's dead men." Lyra's jaw snapped shut. Her fingers tightened on the dagger. For the first time, an edge of real fear cut her amusement. "Dead men? They hunt reincarnators," Cale swallowed. The whisper in his chest stirred like an animal. He'd felt eyes on him since the sentinel fell. Something colder, more patient had turned toward him. "Then we find them first," he said. They didn't find them. The hunter found Cale. The first blow was a whisper of metal across the throat. Cale didn't feel it. He felt the cold slice, and then nothing. Awareness shattered, then stitched itself new. He crumpled, tasted iron, and then the world tore apart into white noise. He opened his eyes on cobble slick with rain. Lyra's face hung over him, pale, rage flickering in her dark eyes. She thrust a dagger toward the alley entrance. "He's not alone." Her voice was flat. "Move!" From above, a gutter shadow, a silhouette. Something swung like a snake and dropped. The figure landed with the sound of a falling leaf, cloaked, masked, with blades that drank light more than it reflected. The killer moved like a thought. No wasted motion, no heartbeat wasted on fear. "Assassin," Lyra breathed. Her stance changed. The playful predator vanished. She was all blade and bone and 100 small rehearsed deaths. Cale rolled. The assassin's blade whispered past his cheek and sliced into his ribs. The world dimmed. He felt the black closing in like a curtain. Panic flared. This time it felt different. Surgical, precise, an attempt at silence. Not slaughter. The assassin didn't gore. They killed to disappear. He died. Then he rose. The wound closed too fast. Blood receded. Muscles tightened with new force. The assassin's eyes widened. Surprise or perhaps disgust. They moved again, quicker, and Kale's hands reacted with instinct he had not yet mastered. He caught a wrist, twisted. Bone snapped. Pain bloomed, but the killer's other blade flicked across his temple, and night swallowed him once more. Every fall taught him. Every death rewired reflexes into sharper, crueler tools. He rose faster. He anticipated the assassin's swings by the micro-shifts in the cloak, by the way the blades hummed between breaths. He blocked a strike with the crook of his elbow and used the momentum to shove the attacker into a stall, crates crashing like the sound of collapsing resolve. The assassin staggered, then vanished into the rooftops as if swallowed by the city itself. No chase, no finishing stroke. As if the hunter's objective had been met. To test, to measure, to mark. Lyra spat a curse into the rain. He's not human. He's a blade served on ice. Her hands shook once, a single tremor, then steadied. She clapped a palm to a broken tile where the assassin had leaned for balance. Something silver flashed. She snatched it. The crest was small and cold. A coin-sized medallion stamped with runes that shivered in the lantern light. Silver runes wound around a glyph that looked eerily like Kale's mark, but twisted, holy and sharp. Lyra's face paled. "The hunters," she whispered. "Someone sent a death stalker." She stared at Kale. Fear and an unsettling respect mixed in her eyes. "They don't just kill. They silence and report. If they've touched you." Kale's breath came in short, wet bursts. Each resurrection left him rawer, hungrier. "What do they want?" he asked, voice gravelly. Lyra's jaw worked. "Not just your death, proof, a token. They take a crest and they leave no bodies, so the temple can claim the justice was theirs. No witnesses, no myths, just clean work." She tossed the silver crest into Kale's palm. It felt cold, heavy, like a promise. He traced the runes, and for a dizzying second, the symbols burned into his mind. A memory he had not owned flashed through him. A battlefield, banners of ash, a king's scream swallowed by the wind. Lyra's whisper cut through the fog. "They're getting closer." The alley felt smaller, the lanterns dimmer. Above them, on a rooftop, a single shadow resolved into a silhouette that watched without moving. The figure's head tilted as if studying the shape of Kale's life. Kale wiped the slick of blood from his mouth. He wanted to be furious with Lyra for not killing the assassin when she had the chance. He wanted to demand why she'd risked him by bringing him into the open. Instead, he felt something sharper, an uneasy truth. Whatever hunted him now played a patient game. They tested the edges, then vanished to report. He pocketed the crest. The mark under his shirt pulsed, hotter, angrier. Lyra stepped close, voice a blade of its own. "You can't keep doing this alone, Kyle. They have blades made for silence. They'll come with nets, priests, and hellfire." He looked at the silver disc in his hand, then to Lyra's face. The scar, the grin that had teeth enough to bite. The city's rumor mill would call her many things: ally, mercenary, liar. Tonight she had saved him, then failed to catch the killer. That failure tasted like betrayal, but maybe not. He crushed the crest briefly in his fist, feeling the cold give. "Then teach me how to move like the shadows," he said, voice low. "Teach me how to be silence." Lyra's lips twitched. "And if I betray you?" He considered the question with a sliver of the old hunger. "Then I'll make sure you never rise again." She laughed. Hollow, fierce, a sound that had survived worse nights. "Good, I prefer honest enemies." From the rooftop, the silent silhouette shifted. The hunter's gaze lingered on Kale's chest, as if memorizing the flame beneath. Then the figure melted into the roofs like smoke and vanished. Kyle tucked the silver crest away, close to the mark. The runes whispered faintly against his skin, like a prayer or a warning. Cliffhanger. As Kale and Lyra melt into the maze of the city, a hooded rider thunders through the main gate toward the palace, bearing the same silver crest pinned to his breastplate. At the palace, a single priest kneels in front of a blazing altar and whispers, "The reincarnator has been found." Chains of light. The palace bells tolled. Their deep iron hum rippled through the city, rolling over rooftops and seeping into every alley. Nobles stiffened. Merchants went silent. Even the slums froze, heads lifting toward the night sky. Kale felt it too, the vibration sinking into his bones, the mark under his chest flaring in response. This wasn't an alarm for fire, or thieves, or riots. This was holy. Summoning. "A call to war," Lyra hissed. tugging at his cloak as they crouched atop a narrow rooftop. "That bell isn't for common criminals. They've marked you." Cale clenched his teeth. He remembered the silver crest, the assassin's gaze. His fist closed tighter around the spear. "Let them come." But Lyra shook her head. "You don't understand. This bell wakes the wardens. Priests in chains of light. They don't just kill, they bind. Even death won't save you if they take your soul." The proof came minutes later. A procession of torches moved through the streets below, but these weren't soldiers. At the center of the formation walked robed figures, their faces hidden by gilded masks, their hands carrying staves of burning silver. From each staff dangled chains, not of iron, but of searing light, writhing like living serpents. Behind them marched armored knights, their shields etched with runes, their steps shaking the cobbles, the air itself bent under their presence. Kyle's mark throbbed violently, almost in panic. Lyra grabbed his arm. "We have to run, now." Kel pulled free, voice low, dangerous. "If I run, they'll keep hunting. If I fight, maybe they'll learn to fear me." "You're not ready," Lyra snapped. "You've barely scratched your power. These aren't street rats or drunk mercenaries. These are the kingdom's leash on monsters like you." Kel's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Then let's see if the leash can hold." The wardens halted below, spreading into a circle. Their chants rose, guttural and sharp. Sigils burned onto the cobbles, weaving a cage of light around the courtyard. The air thickened like molten glass. Cale felt his chest squeeze, breath strangled. The mark screamed against his ribs, pulsing wildly. One of the masked wardens raised a hand. By order of the High Temple, Cale of the Slums, branded cursed, marked Reincarnator. "You are bound in the name of the eternal flame. Surrender." Cale's laugh was hoarse, cracked, defiant. "Surrender? To chains?" His crimson eyes glowed. "You'll have to kill me 1,000 times." The first chain lashed upward. It didn't clink like metal. It cracked like lightning, striking the rooftop and wrapping around Cale's wrist. Burning agony shot through him. Unlike steel, this chain didn't tear flesh. It seared his very essence, dragging at his soul. Cale screamed, collapsing to one knee. His body felt heavy, his resurrection tethered. Lyra slashed her dagger across the chain, but the blade bounced uselessly. Sparks flew. The chain only tightened, dragging Cale toward the courtyard below.
Kyle!
She shouted. His spear flared. The corrupted weapon pulsed, devouring the light, sucking it into its hungry core. The chain hissed, weakened, then snapped. Cale staggered upright, gasping for breath, smoke curling from his skin. The wardens hissed beneath their masks. Blasphemy, corruption. More chains lashed upward, crisscrossing the rooftop. Cale leapt, rolling, striking with the spear. Each impact shattered light into shards, but each clash drained him. His vision blurred, the mark burning hotter and hungrier. For every chain he broke, 2 more rose. Lyra cursed, pulling him toward an adjacent building. "Move, damn you! You can't fight them head on." But Cale's pride, his fury, his humiliation burned too deep. He swung the spear, unleashing a crimson wave that tore through the roof tiles and smashed into the wardens below. Their chants faltered, some collapsing, blood spraying from beneath their masks. For a heartbeat, silence. Victory tasted close. Then the ground cracked. From the sigils rose a cage of pure light, spanning rooftops to rooftops, enclosing the entire street. The air turned molten, Cale's skin blistering just by standing. The wardens chanted louder, voices uniting into a single terrible hymn. Cursed one by chains of eternity, be still. Cale's knees buckled, his breath strangled in his throat. His chest flared as if his heart was being ripped from his body. The mark screamed. The spear howled in resonance. He collapsed, face against the rooftop, fingers clawing desperately at the tiles. For the first time since his power awakened, Cale felt death closing with no promise of rebirth. Lyra knelt beside him, dagger in one hand, her other pressed hard against his chest as if her touch could anchor him.
Cale, fight it! You're not theirs!
His vision tunneled. The chains of light closed in, wrapping tighter around his soul. His body convulsed, smoke pouring from his mouth. Then, deep in the void of his mind, a voice surged. The same whisper that had first called him, but now louder, fiercer. "Do you surrender, Kyle? Or will you devour even the light itself?" Cale's lips parted. Blood dripped from his teeth as he whispered back, "I'll devour it." His eyes flared crimson. The mark exploded. Chains snapped. Runes shattered. The rooftop buckled under the sheer force. Crimson fire erupted outward, clashing with holy light. Screams filled the courtyard as wardens staggered, their chains melting in his aura. Kale rose again, burning, snarling, not entirely human. "You think light can bind me?" His voice was deeper, distorted. "I've already died in darkness. Your light is nothing." Cliffhanger. The chapter ends with Kale standing in the ruins of the rooftop. Crimson fire battling chains of holy light. Wardens chant desperately, Lyra stares in shock, and above them all, the cloaked assassin from before watches silently, whispering, "He's breaking the seals already. Too soon." Crimson against heaven, the rooftop burned. Shards of holy light rained like falling glass, while crimson fire licked across the tiles, devouring wood, stone, even air. The courtyard below was chaos. Wardens chanting frantically, knights raising shields, civilians fleeing in screams, and at the center of it all stood Kale. His cloak hung in tatters, his skin streaked with ash and blood, but his eyes burned with a crimson glow that drowned out the torches. The mark on his chest pulsed, alive, raw, a brand that throbbed with hunger. Lyra's dagger trembled in her hand. She'd seen killers, thieves, monsters in the dark, but never this. Not a boy, not even a man, something caught between death and rebirth. "Kale," she whispered, voice quaking. "You're not yourself?" Below, a masked warden raised his staff. "Chain him! Before the corruption spreads!" Dozens of radiant shackles surged upward, glowing serpents of divine flame. They wrapped his arms, his legs, his chest. Kyle screamed. The sound wasn't human. It cracked the air like thunder rolling through the city. His body convulsed, pulled taut against the bindings. For a heartbeat, he looked broken. A boy again, choking, collapsing, his pride being ground under divine chains. Then the mark surged. The crimson glow burst outward. Chains snapped one after another, their fragments sizzling into nothing. Kale tore free, stumbling forward, spear in hand. His laughter broke through the night, jagged and raw. "You want to chain me?" His voice was deeper, distorted. "I am the chainbreaker." He leapt from the rooftop, landing in the courtyard. The ground cracked beneath his boots. Knights charged, their shields glowing with runes. Kale thrust his spear, and crimson fire exploded, ripping through their line like a storm. Bodies fell, armor melted, blood hissed on burning stone. Lyra jumped down after him, her voice sharp, panicked. "Kale, stop. You're feeding it too much." But he couldn't stop. Every strike made him stronger. Every death made the mark flare hotter. His wounds closed before blood could flow. His muscles surged with power no boy should hold. One knight stabbed through his chest. Kale grinned, grabbed the blade with both hands, and pulled the knight close. Too slow. He snapped the man's neck before his own body even finished healing. Lyra froze, a chill crawling down her spine. This wasn't survival. This was hunger. The warden's chant changed. Desperation laced their voices. One of them, taller, his mask etched with golden runes, stepped forward. "Reincarnator, you blaspheme against the eternal flame. You shall not rise again." He slammed his staff into the ground. A circle of holy fire erupted, engulfing Kyle. Light seared him from all directions, pressing into his flesh, his bones, his very soul. Kale staggered, screaming, his skin blistering under the assault. For the first time, his regeneration faltered. The mark trembled violently as if at war with itself. Lyra ran toward him. "Ah, Kyle!" Inside the flames, Kale collapsed to his knees, his chest heaved, breath ragged. He felt himself unraveling, piece by piece, pulled apart. "You can't win like this," a voice whispered inside. The same voice that had first offered him rebirth, stronger now, louder. "Let me take more. Let me feed." Kale clenched his teeth. His pride screamed against surrender. But the fire burned deeper, threatening to snuff him out forever. His hands shook as he pressed them to the ground. His voice broke.
"Won't—"
"Boo." The mark answered with a surge so violent it split the courtyard. Crimson pillars exploded outward, devouring the holy fire. The taller warden's mask shattered as he screamed, his body dissolving into ash before he could finish his chant. Kyle rose slowly, his figure half shrouded in shadow, half burning in crimson fire. His voice carried like a curse. "You call me cursed? Then let the curse consume you." He thrust his spear into the earth. Crimson spikes erupted beneath the wardens, skewering them where they stood. Chains of light snapped and flickered out one by one. Their chanting died, replaced with screams. Lyra shielded her face from the heat, shouting over the roar.
Kyle, enough! You'll burn yourself out!
But Kale didn't hear her, or maybe he didn't care. His grin stretched wide, his eyes wild. The mark spread further across his chest, crawling like veins of fire up his neck, down his arms. He wasn't just wielding the power anymore. The power was wielding him. One warden, crawling, bleeding, reached out a trembling hand.
Demon!
You'll doom us all. Kale's boot crushed the man's throat. He leaned down, voice cold, cruel. No, you doomed me first. He rose again, crimson fire spiraling into the night sky, visible for miles. The slums trembled. The nobles in their mansions stared from their balconies in horror, and far away in the palace, priests dropped to their knees, whispering frantic prayers. Then, suddenly, Kyle froze. His chest convulsed. His spear slipped from his hand. The mark pulsed violently, then seared him with unbearable pain. His vision blurred. The fire sputtered. His body shook. No longer in control. He collapsed onto the blood-soaked stones, gasping, clawing at his chest as if to rip the mark free. His laughter died, replaced by a ragged scream. Lyra rushed to him, kneeling, pressing her hand hard over his chest. "Stay with me. Don't let it take you." Above them, on the rooftops, the cloaked assassin appeared again, watching, silent. For the first time, his mask tilted, curious, almost approving. The assassin's whisper drifted on the wind. "He's close, too close. If he loses himself now, even the gods won't cage him." The figure vanished into the night. Kale's eyes snapped open. Crimson fire still flickered, but weaker, unstable. He looked at Lyra, his expression torn between fury, pride, and terror. His voice shook. "I can't control it." Lyra's jaw tightened. She met his burning gaze with her own steel. "Then learn, or you'll be their monster, not yours." Cliffhanger. The chapter ends with Kale collapsing unconscious, Lyra dragging him into the shadows while the ruined courtyard smolders. In the distance, the palace bells toll again, not in alarm this time, but in summoning. The gods themselves have taken notice. Whispers of the divine Kale awoke choking on smoke. His body was soaked in sweat, his skin blistered with faint burns that still steamed in the cool dawn. The taste of iron lingered thick in his mouth, bitter and metallic. Every nerve in his body screamed, but he was alive. Alive, as always. The mark on his chest pulsed faintly, slower than before, but heavier. It felt less like a wound now, and more like a presence. A heartbeat not entirely his own. He sat up with a gasp, clutching his chest. His reflection glimmered in a broken shard of tile nearby. His eyes flickered red even when he wasn't calling the power. "Am I still me?" "Good, you didn't stay down." Lyra's voice cut through his haze. She leaned against a ruined wall, arms crossed, face shadowed by exhaustion. Blood smeared her cheek. Her dagger was wet, whether with soldiers' blood or her own. Kale couldn't tell. "You burned half the courtyard," she muttered. "And nearly yourself with it." Kale wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, spit blackened with ash. "They chained me. I had to," Lyra snapped. "You lost control." The words hit harder than the warden's chains. Kale's jaw tightened. He wanted to argue, to claim victory, but he remembered the grin, the laughter that wasn't his, the mark spreading like fire under his skin. He remembered enjoying the slaughter. Silence stretched. Finally, Kale whispered, "If I lose control, I stop being me." Lyra's gaze softened. Not with pity, but with a recognition carved from her own scars.
Then we make sure you don't." The streets outside were silent, deserted.
The air still smelled of smoke, blood, and charred stone, but something else lingered, a weight pressing down from above, heavy and suffocating. Kale frowned. "Do you feel that?" Lyra's dagger twitched in her hand. "Like being watched?" Before Kale could answer, the world shifted. The sky tore open, light bled across the horizon, but not like dawn. It was too bright, too sharp, searing the eyes, cutting through shadows. The clouds parted into a circle, and within it shimmered a massive eye of flame. Kale's chest seized. The mark on his chest pulsed violently, pulling toward the light as if dragged on a chain. He fell to his knees, clutching his ribs, screaming as the brand seared him from the inside. A voice thundered, not in his ears, but in his bones. Reincarnator. The sound shattered rooftops, cracked windows, made blood leak from Kale's nose. Lyra dropped to one knee beside him, cursing, trying to drag him away, but the voice pinned them both. You break chains not yours to break. You devour what belongs to heaven. Do you think you rise for your own will? Kale coughed blood, forcing the words through gritted teeth. I rise because you made me crawl. I rise because you left me to rot. The voice rumbled with cold amusement. You rise because we will it. Each death you steal, each rebirth you take, it feeds not you, but us. Kyle's vision swam. He saw flashes, wars burning centuries ago, kings falling, cities drowned in ash. Each time a figure stood at the center, marked in crimson, always reborn, always cursed, and each time that figure fell, bound, chained, consumed by the gods. No, Kale growled, his voice ragged but fierce. He dug his fingers into the stone, anchoring himself. I won't be your puppet. The eye blazed brighter. All before you said the same. All broke. All served. Kale's scream split the air as the mark burned deeper, spreading across his torso like living fire. His body trembled on the edge of shattering. Then, fingers grabbed his wrist. Lyra. Her grip was iron, her eyes steady despite the terror. Kale, look at me, not them. You're not theirs. You hear me? You're not theirs! Something cracked, not in Kale, but in the sky. The eye flickered, as if challenged. The mark on Kale's chest pulsed violently, then steadied. For a moment, crimson fire pushed back against divine light. Defiant. The voice hissed, colder now. Then burn. Burn until nothing remains but ash and silence. The eye closed. The light vanished. The sky stitched itself shut as if nothing had happened. But the weight lingered. Kale collapsed into Lyra's arms, trembling. His chest still glowed faintly, veins of crimson fire spiderwebbing beneath his skin. He panted, sweat dripping, his voice hoarse. They want me to burn. Lyra wiped blood from his face with her sleeve, her jaw set. Then let them choke on the smoke. Far above, unseen by either of them, the council of radiant figures stood in silence. One spoke, voice venomous. He resists too soon. The chain weakens. Another answered calmly. Then let his fire spread. When he burns brightest, we shall snuff him out. A third, voice lower, darker. Unless he devours us first. The council fell quiet. Back in the ruins, Kale staggered to his feet. His chest still throbbed, but the fire had dimmed. He looked at Lyra, his voice raw but steady. They think I'm theirs. He spat blood into the dust. But I'll show them. I'll take their power, their chains, their thrones, and I'll make them choke on it. Lyra smirked faintly, though her eyes still held worry. Careful. You sound like a king. Kale's lips curled into a grin, sharp and hungry. Maybe I'll be one. Cliffhanger. The chapter ends as Kale and Lyra limp away from the ruined courtyard. Behind them shadows shift, mercenaries, priests, assassins, all converging on the city's new outlaw. The hunt has only begun. A knife in the dark. The slums never slept, not even after blood painted its streets. Kale and Lyra slipped through the narrow alleys, smoke still trailing from the charred courtyard they'd left behind. Rats scurried along the gutters. Doors creaked shut as they passed. Every shadow felt like an eye watching. Kale's body ached with each step, though the mark stitched his wounds in stubborn silence. His skin still glowed faintly where crimson fire had burned through him, leaving scars that refused to fade. Where are we going? His voice was hoarse. Lyra glanced back, sharp-eyed, scanning the rooftops. Somewhere the wardens won't look first. The crossroads. Kale frowned. The crossroads was no sanctuary, just a tangle of collapsing buildings where smugglers traded flesh, weapons, and secrets. The kind of place you survived by knowing who to bribe and who to slit. But right now, even the gutter rats were safer than the gods' gaze. They slipped into a cellar beneath a half-collapsed inn. The air stank of mold and stale wine. Lanterns glimmered over rough wooden tables where cutthroats and thieves played cards, knives always within reach. Kale recognized faces. Men who'd jeered at him when he was a starving boy. Women who'd stolen bread from him in the winter. Now their eyes flicked toward him with a different hunger, fear mixed with greed. A hush spread as he entered. Lyra's voice cut through it like steel. We need safe passage. Tonight. The barkeep, a scarred man with one blind eye, leaned forward. "Safe passage, Cos, girl. And your boy there looks like trouble chained in flesh." Kale's jaw tightened. His hand itched toward his spear, but Lyra pressed a warning glance on him. "We'll pay," she said. "Gold," the barkeep's lips curled. "Gold spends fine, but his head spends finer." The room shifted. Knives glinted. Men rose slowly from their tables, circling. Kale's eyes narrowed. "You sold me." The barkeep's chuckle was low, greasy. "Word's out, boy. The wardens put a bounty high enough to buy the whole crossroads. You think any rat here wouldn't sell his own kin for a purse that heavy?" Lyra cursed under her breath, dagger flashing into her palm. "Kale, but the trap was already sprung." The cellar door slammed shut. Bolts locked. Shadows detached from corners. Mercenaries armed with axes, blades, and crossbows. The room reeked of betrayal. Kale felt the mark stir, eager, hungry for slaughter. But his body trembled with exhaustion, fire not fully rekindled. Still, his grin was sharp. "So this is it. Rats thinking they can chew a wolf," the barkeep sneered. "Not a wolf. Just cursed meat waiting for the butcher." He raised his hand. "Kill him!" The cellar exploded into chaos. A crossbow bolt hissed toward Kale's head. He twisted aside, the shaft grazing his cheek. His spear swept wide, knocking a man into a wall with bone-shattering force. Lyra danced beside him, her dagger flashing like a silver serpent. She slit a throat, spun, drove steel into a gut, never stopping. Blood sprayed across the lantern light, dripping onto warped wooden planks. But more came. Too many. Kyle's chest burned, the mark pulsing, begging to be unleashed. He felt it coil, whispering, "Feed me, burn them. Let none live." His knees weakened. His mind split, half clinging to himself, half dragged into crimson fire. "Kyle!" Lyra's voice snapped him back, sharp and grounding. "Stay with me." He snarled, forcing the mark to heal. Instead of unleashing it, he fought raw. Spear and fists cracking skulls, shattering ribs. Blood smeared his arms, sweat pouring down his temples. Every kill drained him more. Every heartbeat, the mark screamed louder, hungrier. Finally, the last man fell gurgling, his throat a ruin. The cellar fell silent but for Kale's ragged breath. The barkeep cowered behind his counter, trembling. You can't kill me." "The wardens." Kale vaulted over the bar, seizing the man by his collar. His crimson eyes burned into the barkeep's terrified face. "You sold me," Kale growled. "For coin," the man whimpered, hands clawing at Kale's grip. "It was just business, just survival." Kale's spear drove through his chest, pinning him to the counter. His scream choked off in blood. Kale leaned close, whispering coldly, "So is this." The barkeep's body slumped, lifeless. Lyra exhaled shakily, wiping her blade clean. "You realize every gang in the crossroads will know by morning. They'll all come for us now." Kale pulled his spear free, blood dripping. His chest still throbbed, but he stood taller, straighter, his fury sharpening his voice. "Good. Let them come. Let them line up with their knives and their greed. I'll kill them all." Lyra's expression hardened. "That's the mark talking. You're not a god. You can't kill the world." Kale's grin was cold, vicious. "Then I'll kill enough to make it choke." But as they slipped out through a side passage, Kale's thoughts gnawed. The wardens knew his location almost instantly. The bounty spread too fast. Someone had whispered his secret not just to the slums, but to the palace. "Someone close!" Kale clenched his fist, nails cutting his palm. "Who betrayed me first?" High above the crossroads, the cloaked assassin crouched on a rooftop, watching Kale vanish into the alleys. His mask tilted, unreadable. A whisper slipped past his lips. "Dance, cursed boy. Dance until even betrayal is your weapon." Then the assassin vanished into the dark. Cliffhanger. The chapter ends with Kale and Lyra fleeing deeper into the underworld, hunted not only by the gods but now by his own people. And somewhere among his allies, hidden, waits the true traitor who first sold his secret. The Lord of Rats. The slums stank of rain and blood. Kale and Lyra pressed through the labyrinth of alleys, their cloaks soaked, their boots splashing through filth. Behind them, whistles cut through the night. Signals. Hunters closing in. Every gang wanted the bounty. Every gutter rat with a blade fancied himself Kale's executioner. The crossroads had become a cage, its doors shut by greed. Lyra's voice was tight, low. "We can't keep running blind. They'll bleed us out street by street. Kale's grip tightened on his spear. His crimson eyes flicked through the shadows. Then we find someone who bleeds them first. That someone sat atop the broken throne of a gutted theater, the Lord of the Crossroads himself. Ravel. He was a gaunt man draped in silks stolen from nobles, gold rings crusted with grime, his throne cobbled from shattered statues. His smile was a knife's edge, sharp but rotten. Rats crawled openly across the floor, unbothered by the mercenaries flanking him. Kale and Lyra were dragged before him by 2 guards, their wrists bound in rope. Kale's skin prickled with rage, but Lyra's warning glance kept him still. Ravel's laughter slithered through the room. So the cursed boy comes crawling to me. Half the slums are already carving your bounty into their dreams. Yet here you are, breathing. Kale met his gaze, unflinching. You want me dead like the rest? Try it. I'll paint your throne with your skull. Gasps rippled through the hall. But Ravel only clapped his hands once, slow and mocking. Spirited. I like that. His grin widened, crooked teeth gleaming. No, boy, I don't want you dead. I want you alive. Your curse makes you a blade, and blades are meant to be wielded. Kale's eyes narrowed. You think you can use me? Ravel leaned forward, his gaunt face glowing in lantern light. Everyone else in this city wants your head. The wardens, the gangs, even the gutter rats. But me, I want their heads. You burn gods. You kill knights. What could you do with an army of shadows behind you? Lyra's voice cut sharp. An army of rats still stinks. The mercenaries stirred, hands on their blades, but Ravel lifted a finger and silenced them. His eyes lingered on Lyra, amused. Pretty tongue. Careful, girl. It could get bitten. Kale stepped forward, rope creaking against his wrists. You offer me your shadows. What's the price? Ravel's grin thinned into steel. Half the bounty the palace put on you. Not in coin, no. In corpses. Every rival lord who thinks they'll claim your head, you'll bring me theirs instead. The room seemed to close in. Kale could feel Lyra's stare on him, silent but sharp. Don't do it. But his mind burned with the voice of the gods still echoing, with betrayal still festering. The world was hunting him. Alone he'd drown in knives and chains. With an army, even rats, he could bleed them back. Kale's lips curled into a grin, vicious and daring. Fine, I'll give you corpses. Enough to drown your throne. Ravel laughed, clapping. Oh, cursed boy, we'll make a legend of you yet. Later, in a dim chamber lit by guttering candles, Lyra slammed him against the wall, her dagger pressed against his collarbone. Are you insane? She hissed. Ravel will gut you the moment you're no longer useful. Kale's eyes glowed faintly crimson, meeting hers without flinching. Then I'll gut him first. Lyra's grip tightened, fury and fear warring in her eyes. Every step you take drags you closer to the mark. First you burned wardens. Now you play king of rats. What's next, Kale? Crown yourself in blood? His grin was sharp but weary. Maybe. Her dagger lingered a heartbeat longer before she cursed, shoving him back and turning away. You'll damn us both, she muttered. Kyle rubbed his chest where the mark pulsed. Quietly, almost to himself, he whispered, They damned me long before you. That night, the streets of the crossroads burned. Kale marched at the head of Ravel's mercenaries, spear in hand, crimson fire faintly licking its edge. Shadows spilled from every alley. Cutthroats, thieves, killers. Not loyal men, not friends, but weapons in numbers. Their target was a rival gang stronghold. The doors burst open. Screams filled the night. Blood slicked the cobblestones as Kyle carved a path through men who begged, fought, fled. Crimson fire flared in arcs, splitting flesh, melting steel. Rats swarmed the fallen, gnawing faces, chewing eyes. Lyra fought beside him, silent, her blade quick, her gaze harder than stone. She didn't speak, but every glance she threw him cut like a dagger. This isn't who you are. Kyle knew, and he didn't care. By dawn, the stronghold was ash. Bodies littered the streets, gnawed clean. Ravel sat on a pile of corpses, grinning wide, his silks drenched in gore. Glorious! Oh, cursed boy, you'll make the slums tremble before us. Kale stood in the carnage, his chest still burning, his eyes still faintly glowing. He stared at the bodies, at his bloodied hands, at the crimson mark pulsing like a second heart. The god's words whispered back through his skull, All before you said the same. All broke, all served. He clenched his spear until his knuckles cracked. Not me, he whispered. Cliffhanger. The chapter ends as Ravel toasts Kale's first victory. The rats feasting, mercenaries cheering, but in the shadows above, the cloaked assassin watches yet again, murmuring, "King of rats today, king of ashes tomorrow," and the palace bells toll once more. The hound of chains, the palace bells tolled again. Not for soldiers, not for wardens. This bell was deeper, slower, its hum sinking into the marrow of the city. Even the rats in the alleys froze, their whiskers twitching as if sensing a storm. Kale stood on a rooftop, the crossroads sprawling below him in smoke and ruin. His hands still dripped with blood from the night's raid, his chest burned faintly with the mark's restless pulse. Lyra climbed up behind him, her cloak torn, her eyes sharp with unease.
That sound?
It's not for men. Kale tilted his head, listening. The bell's hum seemed to crawl inside his skull, gnawing at his thoughts. Then what is it for? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The answer came on padded feet. At first, Kale thought the shadows were playing tricks. But then he saw it. A shape moving down the main avenue, too large for a wolf, too silent for a beast. Chains rattled faintly with every step, their links glowing with runes. The hound. Its body was all muscle and sinew, fur black as ash, eyes burning white with unnatural light. Its jaw hung open, rows of teeth like jagged knives, steam rising from its maw. The chains wrapped around its torso weren't bindings. They were veins, pulsing with holy fire. Every step it took, the mark on Kale's chest throbbed harder, almost afraid, Lyra whispered, pale. They sent the chain hound. A curse-eater. The beast's head snapped toward their rooftop. Kale barely had time to move before it lunged. The street split under its leap, cobblestones shattering, chains rattling like thunder. Kale shoved Lyra aside and rolled, the hound crashing down where he'd stood a breath before. Its roar split the night. Not sound, but a vibration that made Kale's bones scream. The mark flared, crimson light spilling from his chest. For the first time it felt dragged outward, like the beast was tugging on it, gnawing at his very soul. Kale staggered, gasping. "It's feeding on me." Lyra hurled a dagger. It buried in the hound's side, but the wound closed instantly, chains glowing brighter as if drinking the strike. "It doesn't bleed," she shouted. Kale snarled, lifting his spear. "Then I'll make it choke," he charged, crimson fire bursting along the weapon's edge. The spear struck the hound's chest, detonating a flare of corrupted light. The explosion threw dust and flame across the street. Yet when the smoke cleared, the beast stood unharmed, jaws clamped tight around the spear's shaft. Kale's eyes widened. The hound yanked, nearly ripping the weapon from his grip. Crimson fire sputtered where it touched the chains, devoured like tinder in water. Lyra's voice was sharp with panic. "Kale, it's eating your curse!" The hound lunged, jaws snapping. Kale twisted aside, the teeth grazing his arm. Flesh blackened instantly as if rotted by holy fire. Pain seared through him. His regeneration faltered, the wound refusing to close. Kale stumbled, clutching his arm, teeth bared in rage. "So this is what the gods sent. Something that can unmake me." The hound prowled in a circle, chains rattling. Its eyes burned brighter, focused entirely on him. It wasn't hunting flesh. It was hunting the mark. Lyra darted in, slashing across the beast's leg. Her dagger rang like steel against steel, sparks flying. "It's too strong. We need to run." Kale's pride roared against the thought. Run? From a dog? But his body shook, the wound in his arm festering, his fire dimming. The mark pulsed erratically, unstable. He realized with a sinking weight. The longer he fought, the more it would eat him alive. The hound crouched, chains glowing brighter, preparing to leap again. Kale spat blood, forcing a grin. "Fine, then let's see if it can chase." They ran, through alleys, across rooftops, into the tangle of the crossroads. The hound thundered after them, silent but for the rattling of its chains. Walls cracked under its claws, roofs collapsed under its weight. Every street it crossed, people fled screaming, doors slamming shut, prayers whispered in terror. Kale's lungs burned. His body screamed, but still he pushed forward, Lyra at his side, daggers flashing whenever the beast drew too close. Yet no matter how far they ran, the hound stayed behind them, always one leap away, always gnawing at the mark inside him. Finally, they cornered themselves in a ruined chapel. Its roof collapsed, its altar shattered. Kale stumbled against the broken stone, chest heaving. Lyra turned, daggers ready, though her hands trembled. "We can't keep this up, Kale." "You have to use it." He shook his head violently. "The mark?" "No. If I unleash it, the hound will just feed faster." Her eyes locked on his, hard, desperate. "Then find a way to burn it so hot even that thing can't swallow it." The hound stepped into the chapel. Chains clinked, glowing like molten iron. Its jaws opened wide, steam pouring into the air. Kale's mark flared, screaming in resonance. For the first time, he felt choice splinter him. If he gave in fully, unleashed the crimson fire, he might burn the hound down, or he might feed it enough to strip his soul bare. If he held back, if he fought as a man, not a curse, the beast would tear him apart in flesh and bone. Either way, the gods had set the game, a trap with no clean escape. Kel gripped his spear tighter, blood dripping from his wound, crimson fire licking along his arms. His lips peeled back into a snarl. "Fine. Let's see who devours who." Cliffhanger. The chapter ends as Kale charges the hound inside the ruined chapel, crimson fire bursting violently around him, while the beast lunges with its chains glowing blinding white. Lyra screams his name as the two forces collide in a storm of light and fire. Devourer. The chapel shook as beast and boy collided. Crimson fire erupted from Kale's spear, clashing with the white glow of the hound's chains. The impact split stone, shattered pews, and tore the roof wider open. For a heartbeat, the world was nothing but fire and light. Kale's scream drowned by the hound's roar. Then the clash broke. Kale was thrown against the altar, the breath ripped from his lungs. Blood sprayed across broken stone. His spear clattered beside him, flickering weakly with dying fire. The hound rose from the wreckage almost unharmed, its chains pulsing brighter, its jaws steaming. Each step it took, the mark on Kale's chest seared hotter, dragged outward like prey on a hook. Kale groaned, clutching his ribs. "Damn thing. It's eating me alive." Lyra darted between them, daggers flashing. She slashed across the beast's muzzle, then rolled aside as its jaws snapped inches from her throat. Sparks hissed where her blades met chains, but the wounds vanished in seconds, devoured by holy fire. "Kale!" she shouted. "You can't fight it half dead. Either burn it or it burns you." Kyle's hands shook. He could feel the mark clawing inside him, begging release, whispering the same promise. "More. Give me more. I'll devour it all." He clenched his teeth, rage and fear twisting together. "If I give it everything, I might not come back." Lyra's voice cracked, desperate. "Then don't come back as nothing at all." The hound lunged. Kale seized his spear and roared, thrusting it forward with every shred of fury in his chest. The mark exploded. Crimson fire spiraled up the weapon, coursing through his veins, bursting from his skin in molten cracks. The chapel dissolved into hell. Crimson pillars tore upward, colliding with the hound's glowing chains. For the first time the beast staggered, snarling, its flesh sizzling under the cursed fire. The smell of burning fur and iron filled the air. Kale pressed harder, eyes blazing, voice no longer his own. "Eat, damn you, devour!" The fire thickened, wild, not just striking the beast, but drinking it. The hound howled. Its chains writhed, desperate, their glow dimming as the fire consumed them. It lunged, clamping its jaws on Kale's shoulder. Agony flared, its teeth seared through flesh and soul alike. But Kale didn't falter. He screamed back into its maw. Crimson fire bursting from his wound, pouring down the hound's throat. The beast convulsed, choking, its body splitting with cracks of light. Its eyes dimmed as if smothered. Kale felt himself unraveling with it. His vision blurred, his veins burned molten. He couldn't tell where his body ended and the curse began. Lyra's scream cut through the chaos. "Kale, stop, you'll burn yourself out." But Kale's laughter broke through instead, ragged, vicious, not entirely sane. "If it wants my soul, let it choke on it." The fire surged brighter, consuming beast and boy alike. The chapel crumbled, walls collapsing in showers of ash and stone. Then silence. Kale dropped to his knees. Smoke poured from his mouth, his chest, his eyes. The hound lay twitching, its chains shattered, its body hollowed, burned from the inside out. Its final whimper faded, and then it stilled. Dead. Truly dead. Kyle swayed, His vision flickered. He looked down. His arms were cracked with glowing fissures, crimson light seeping from beneath his skin like molten rivers. His reflection in a broken shard showed not a boy, but a figure half consumed, half monster. The mark pulsed wildly, spreading further across his chest, his throat, his jaw. For a heartbeat, Cale felt no pain, no fear, only hunger. What else can I devour? Lyra grabbed him, shaking hard. Cale, look at me! Her face swam in his vision. Her voice, sharp and human, cut through the roaring fire. You're not theirs. You're not a beast. You're Cale, damn it, hold on. His grin faltered. His chest heaved. Slowly, the crimson cracks dimmed. The light retreated, crawling back into the mark, though it pulsed still like a second heart. Cale collapsed into her arms, trembling, gasping like a drowning man. I killed it. His voice was hoarse, broken, but it almost took me with it. Lyra pressed her forehead against his, eyes wet but fierce. You won. That's all that matters now. Outside, the bells tolled again, but this time they weren't summoning wardens or beasts. They were mourning. The palace had unleashed its hound of chains, and lost it. Far away, priests knelt before the high temple, their faces pale, their prayers desperate. He devoured the hound, one whispered. The curse grows stronger. The high priest's eyes narrowed. Then the gods will tighten their leash. Ready the next seal? Back in the ruins, Cale lay on the broken floor, his chest rising and falling shallowly. His crimson eyes glimmered faintly in the dark. For the first time he whispered not in rage, but in fear. What if Lyra's wrong? What if I'm already theirs? Lyra's grip on him tightened. Her voice was low, steel wrapped in trembling. Then I'll steal you back, even from gods. Cliffhanger. The chapter ends with Cale unconscious, Lyra guarding him in the chapel ruins as dawn breaks. But outside, unseen, the cloaked assassin kneels by the beast's corpse, dipping fingers into its ashes. He whispers, almost reverent, so he truly devours, not just men, not just chains, even the god's hound. The end begins.